All righty. What's up, everybody? What's up to all of my sacred sisters? It is your girl, Desiree D. Wise, and we're starting something new, starting something fresh. This is the Sacred Sister Circle podcast for sacred women like you, like me, to come together in a sacred space, to have sacred conversation about our sacred work. And today, episode 1. Shout out to you, sis, for being the first one on here today. Episode 1, we have our sacred queen curator, right? Somebody that I absolutely look up to and adore, a sister, a friend, emotional wellness coach. We have on today Fila Antwine. Fila,
Hey,
say
hey,
hey to
hey.
the family. Yes, yes, yes.
I am super excited to be here. And now that I know that I'm like the first guest, there's a little bit of pressure, right?
Okay.
Yes, we want to make sure that
Yes,
this is an episode to remember. So thank you for having me, especially as guest number one.
absolutely. It just worked out that way. I have a slew of women who I've reached out to and connected with, and your dates and my dates just seem to connect the soonest and the earliest. So it's an honor. And like I just said, working with you for I don't even know how long it's been. It seems like time is flying by so fast. But the
Hmm.
work that we've done together so far has definitely, inspired me and pushed me and helped me to grow in so many ways. So I feel like it's only right that we have you on here and that we start with you. So, the very first thing that I want to ask you, Phyla, is what does it mean to actually be a sacred queen? Like, what does that actually mean?
So I think this is a great question to start with because the concept is really at the foundation of the work that I do, right? Creating a space for women to step into their sacred queendom and elevate their entire lives. And so it really is connecting the energy of the two words, taking the word sacred, which is about being connected to that which is greater than you, right? Calling
Mhm.
on your divinity and your femininity and the part of you that goes beyond your humanity, beyond your human form, beyond your limitations. And
Mhm.
then connecting that with the energy and the idea of what it means to be a queen, which is to be a female ruler, which is to be a
Mm.
woman who is in charge of her own domain, her own empire. And so becoming a sacred queen means that you are a woman who lives your life, controls your life, and is the creator of your life based on an idea of limitless living because you are connected to something higher than all.
That's so juicy. That's so juicy. And that's something that we are all like, even women who may not be aware, right, of those words, sacred queen, or may not be aware of making that connection of having your divinity govern your physical human reality. Even
Mhm.
though you don't have the words to express that, we all know that that's something that we desire, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
to be the ruler of our lives, to be able
Mhm.
to decide what it is that we want and to move with a certain level of power, to move with a certain level of knowing and trust and faith. And that's so huge into living a life that is truly fulfilling. So I thank you, for creating that space and for you showing up in that energy and being a trailblazer in connecting divinity to the human reality. Okay.
Right, because it's about that harmony and it's about creating
Mm,
balance within our lives.
absolutely, absolutely. So before you were a sacred queen, right? Because
Mhm.
a lot of us, we're born as a sacred queen, but then we have experiences that make us forget who the hell we are.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you were a sacred queen, how did you discover, okay, I am not in alignment with the sacredness or with the queendom. I'm not in alignment with that. How did you discover that? And like what work did you do to actually remember and start tapping
Mhm.
into that energy and living from that space?
So, I love that you prefaced it with the fact that we all are born into our own sacred queenship, and that's who we come into the world being, right? But we are socialized out of it, we are conditioned out of it, we are traumatized out of it. And then we begin to live life based on that socialization, that conditioning, and that trauma. And so for me, I remember being a young girl who was so self-assured and so empowered that it would make the adults uncomfortable around me.
I know about
Right.
that.
Right.
I know about that.
Yes. And I remember, teachers would tell my parents, like, she's too self-assured, right? She speaks too boldly. She talks too much. And there would be adult friends and some family members who would also say to my parents, you guys better be careful with her. Like, she has a lot of attitude, they would say. And it wasn't about being disrespectful or rude. It was just about simply having the wherewithal to know that I had a right to advocate for myself even before anyone taught me. Right. So that's where I come from. That's my foundation. But I also grew up in an extremely dysfunctional environment. So I am a queen from Queens, a Queens girl from New York. So we're always considering ourselves queens, right?
Yeah, rightfully so. Rightfully so.
And so growing up in Queens, growing up in New York during the crack epidemic and the drug-ridden 80s and 90s, my biological father was in the drug game. My parents were only 17 when they had me. And so that environment created a level of trauma that was normalized. And I was conditioned around this trauma, right? And coming up in an environment like that is so dysfunctional, but you have to learn to function within that dysfunction. And it goes against your nature, and it goes against that divinity that we have, and that self-confidence and that self-assurance is really tested in those kinds of environments. And so at a really young age, I kind of began to be picked apart, and I had my own personal experiences as well. I'm a sexual abuse survivor, so going through sexual abuse at a young age at the hands of my biological father as well, and feeling like I couldn't turn to anyone because, again, I had already learned that I was too much for the people who were growing me, rearing me, raising me. And so then this process of self-minimalization began to happen over time. And if we fast forward, at some point in my young adulthood, I saw myself potentially going down a similar path to those who had been in my life. And I just knew that I didn't want that. Even before I knew what it was I did want, I knew that I did not want what I had seen. And so that put pressure on me to create a new vision for myself. And that really was the start of the work for me.
A lot of what you said really deeply resonates with me. It's crazy because just yesterday I was having a conversation live on YouTube talking about how we really have to ask ourselves the question, like, is who I'm being today who I really am at my essence, or is this my condition? Right? And it was such a juicy thing to consider, especially when you talk about how you were self-assured, right? You were confident. You knew who you were. You knew your truth. And you knew some shit that was going on with these adults as well that they were not ready to reflect upon. And so instead of them being able to look at themselves and say, damn, this kid knows some stuff, I would rather shut you down. That very same thing also happened to me. And it had conditioned me in a sense to not always speak up when I'm thinking or feeling something, because I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or ruffle any feathers or do this or do that. And so it's been a learning process of coming back into the fullness of who I am and being okay with the divine insights that I have, right? No matter who may feel uncomfortable with it. And so that remembering is so important, and then reintegrating that into our being is a real challenge because people are not, they're used to you being one way. And when you decide, okay, I'm no longer going to play small, I'm no longer going to be that person, I am going to live fully and authentically as my divine self. Oh, honey, people be like, who she thinks she is?
Sure do.
They be like, who she thinks she is? What is she doing? But you know what we have to learn, and what I've what I'm actively learning and practicing is that those people's opinions and dissatisfaction or dislike or disdain with this new state of being is their problem and not mine. So as you were coming back into your queendom, right? As you were coming back into your essence and remembering the self-assurance, the confidence, the health and well-being mentally and emotionally, how did you navigate that being surrounded by dysfunction?
Mm-hmm. So, it's interesting because I recognize that I had such a blessed
Mm.
opportunity within that space to learn so much and being within that dysfunction. But also, my mother is one of 11 children. She has 7
Mm.
sisters. And
Wow.
so I also saw women, Black women in particular, exhibiting superhuman strength
Mm.
and resilience and ingenuity in the midst of all this toxicity, in the midst of all this craziness, right? My grandmother migrated to New York from Darlington, South Carolina. She was a sharecropper. So she
Mm.
literally picked cotton.
Mm.
And she moved to Brooklyn, New York to create a better life for her family. And she would often share stories with me about her upbringing as a child in the 30s and 40s in the South. And so, and I'm also named after her. So that
Mm.
energy, I embody that strength and
Yeah.
that resilience, right?
Mhm.
And so seeing my grandmother who came up from out of nothing
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
create something for herself, and the way that my mother and her sisters relied on one another and created community with each other and with other women and always supported folks. And if my grandmother didn't have anything, she could create a meal for you, right?
Mm.
She could create a warm home for you. She fed everybody in the neighborhood. She used to send us up and down the block with plates in our
Mm.
hands to take to
Wow.
the neighbors. And so even within the midst of all the craziness, there was this sense of sisterhood and support and strength in womanhood. So I
Wow.
always felt so grounded in that. And when you go out into the world, no matter what's happening in the world, because you know that you're supported and you have somewhere to go back to, it really creates this foundation of strength and of confidence, even in the midst of your confusion. And so I
Mm.
always had that to hold on to. And I knew that that connection to women and that sacred sisterhood that I was being raised in was
Mhm.
the reason why I was able to toe the line and
Yeah.
not completely ever fall off or fall apart.
Yes, 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 yes. So beautiful. And it just speaks to the importance of community. It speaks to the importance of sisterhood. It's funny for me because,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm establishing my sisterhood online, literally.
Mhm.
All I have is brothers. All I have is brothers. And so sisterhood was not something that was normal to me. And being able to rest in that femininity and that intuitiveness and that nurturingness. No, honey, your girl had to be solid as a rock, okay? Had to be solid as a rock. So through people like you and other beautiful women, that's how I've been able to create this sisterhood community and to really rest in that femininity. So
Mhm.
with that for you, which is so beautiful, why is it so important now to still maintain that sisterhood? Because you have the Sacred Queen Academy, okay, and you have all of your programs and your offerings that really bring a lot of women together. Why is
Mhm.
that so important in this day and time?
Well, first and foremost, it's so vital and important because we've been socialized out of our femininity,
Mm,
right? Especially when it comes to Black women, brown women, other women of color. We are forced to be hyper masculine in order to just get through the day, in order
mhm,
to survive, in order to put food on the table, in order to deal with so much of the social trauma that we're impacted by every single day and that we're like bombarded with, right? And so women have been taught to operate from this hyper masculine state, to not show emotions, to not cry. And let me really be transparent and honest. Black women have been taught that we don't
mhm,
have the right to honor our own feelings, right?
Mhm.
Other women, white women in particular, have always been given space to cry, to
Yeah.
break down, to
Yeah.
be damsels in distress.
Mhm.
And then they're coddled by all of society, and
Mhm.
it's okay.
Mhm.
For us, we have been taught that our worth comes from what we can do for others,
Yeah.
and your feelings do not matter in that process. And in
Mm.
order for us to have been able to survive in that mindset, we had to disconnect from our femininity, which is the
Mhm.
reason why we have so much trauma within our communities and so
Yeah.
much disconnection within our families, and why there is such a high level and pattern of sexual abuse and physical abuse and mental and emotional manipulation
Mhm.
within our relationships. And so I
Mhm.
saw those dots and was able to connect those dots, and I said, you know, if we can come back together as women, if we can be honest and vulnerable with ourselves and each other, that's going to create a shift within the lives of women, which obviously is going to create a shift within the lives of everyone, because women are the foundation of the families
Yeah.
and of the communities.
Mhm. So true. So it ain't nothing like seeing another woman empowered, seeing another woman in a healthy relationship, seeing another
Mhm.
woman, working the hell out of her business, doing what it is that she loves, being in tune with herself, being confident. That is such a beautiful thing to observe. And I think a part of the work that both of us do is that we're normalizing that.
Mhm.
And we're
Mhm.
creating that mirror to see, okay, you can be powerful, you can be purposeful, you can have love, you can have friendship, you can have sisterhood, you can have the family, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can have
Right.
all of those things, because when you see it, it gives a certain level of confidence and assurance. And that was one of the first things when I saw you, Fila. I don't know how I came across your page. I think maybe Neoshi, maybe our girl Neoshi. I came across your
Shout out
page.
to Neoshi.
Shout out to Neoshi, my girl, who I can't. I'm excited. She's gonna be on here too. And we're gonna talk about her sacred work, like we're talking about yours
Yes.
right now. But I came across your page through Neoshi, and immediately when I saw you, I just had this knowing and this reassurance. I was like, oh, I'm going to work with her. And I
Mhm.
think that's something that's important within sacred sisterhood, and that sacred queen energy is honoring, valuing, and respecting other women. It's okay to admire another woman. It's
Yes,
okay
ma'am.
to express that love that you feel or that you could appreciate for another woman, because we've been chronically conditioned to think that we got to fight, we have to compete, there can't be more than one queen, and all of these things like that. And
Mhm.
so I think the work that we are doing is creating this healthy environment to where it's like she can be great, I can be great, we can be great, we can learn from each other, grow with each other, evolve with each other. So it's just such a sacred thing, and it's absolutely necessary for women to know and understand
Mhm.
that sacred queens exist and they love each other. And it's
Absolutely.
a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
And we can have
Absolutely.
powerful, spiritually led conversations.
Yes, we
We don't
can.
got to just talk about the money or the relationship. We can talk about what's actually happening cosmically,
Mhm,
you
mhm.
know?
And I think it's also important to talk about how sometimes when you are not operating from a place of personal alignment, when you do see that other woman, that sister who is
Mm,
doing so well, it may not feel good to you,
huh, come on.
right? There may be some resistance, there may be some
Mm,
jealousy, there may be some shame, and
yeah.
you might not feel connected to that woman
Mm,
because it triggers your own triggers.
absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
we're not always going to see another woman who's doing great and doing amazing and who could potentially be an example for us and feel good about it. And
Mm,
when you do have that resistance and feel that resistance, that it's okay, but it's an indication that you need to lean in there as well, right?
yes.
And take those blinders off, because so many of us are seeing life through the dysfunction and through the trauma that when we see a
Absolutely.
healthy image, we don't know how to receive it.
You're so right, girl. I had a whole experience. I could tell you the whole experience, and I'm sure you have one too that I would love to hear. A young lady booked a consultation with me.
Hmm.
And she comes on and she says, I just can't stand you.
Hmm.
Phyla, she just paid money to have a conversation with me. And she gets on, and one of the very first things that she says is, I was watching your YouTube videos and I just couldn't stand you. I just was getting angry. I was just mad looking at you. And immediately my spirit told me, and I had to share it with her as gentle as possible to say, sis, the feelings that you have is because there's something in me that is asking to be birthed from you, and you're fighting it, you're
Mhm.
resisting it, you are afraid of it. And instead of being able to recognize that that's what's happening, you're projecting the I don't like you onto me when it's not
Mhm.
even about me. It's what I'm bringing out inside of you.
There
And
it
so we
is.
had a whole 45-minute consultation just kind of working through that. But I was so, I was in shock, really.
Were you?
I was in shock. Girl, I was naive at the time. I was
Yeah.
naive. I'm learning now, Phyla. I'm really learning now. And this is something that I have to really get okay with in order for me to stretch and connect at the level that I have to connect. There are going to be people that are going to be triggered. So how
Absolutely.
do you deal with that? Because I know you say some very provocative things
Polarizing.
and polarizing things.
Yes.
How do you deal with that when there's something that you have to say, when you're speaking truth to power? You're
Hmm.
speaking something that your spirit, that divinity, that sacred part of you, it was able to identify. That's what you're speaking from. But somebody else is like, oh no, you will not come for
Hmm.
me,
Hmm.
when that's
I
never
had
your
to
intent.
learn. I went through my own process as
Mm,
well and
mm,
had to learn
mm,
that it has nothing to do with me and it's not about me, right? And I'll tell you a story. I did, because I still do my own work. I did a personal development program. It was an in-person, maybe like 8-week personal development program. And in one of the days, we had to do exercises and we had to partner off. The facilitators chose the partnerships and we had to partner off. And there was a young lady that I partnered with, beautiful, deep brown, melanated, like lean, statuesque girl. I just thought she was gorgeous. And I'm like,
mm,
oh, okay, this is my partner. And we sat
mm.
across from each other and did the exercises, right? And simple exercises. And that was that. And so the next day we came back because it was like kind of every weekend for 8 weeks. And
Mhm.
the next day we came back and my partner came walking through the door. And so I was like, hey, partner. And she stopped and she said to me, I almost didn't come back today because of you. So I said,
Wow.
because of who? Not me.
You like what?
Not me, right? Didn't we just have a great experience yesterday in our partnership? And I
Mm.
said, huh? And she said to me, and this was the first time that someone was completely honest, transparent, and vulnerable about
Uh-huh.
this experience. And it helps me to learn a lot about myself. And she said,
Okay.
I started not to come back today because of you. I just didn't like you. I didn't
Mm.
like your energy. I didn't want to come back to complete the assignment, etc. She said, and I called one of my very best friends and I told her about the program and how excited I was. And then they partnered me with this woman and she just thinks that and she has all this, yada, yada, yada. And she said, and I
Mm.
explained everything to my best
Mm.
friend. And my best friend said, well, what are some of the things that occurred and what happened? And she said, I explained it to her. And at the end of the conversation, her best friend said to her, the only reason that you don't like that woman is because you are intimidated by her light.
Ah.
She came in, she showed up wholly and fully, and that scared you.
Mm.
Apparently, she had a tendency to minimize and things. There were things that
Mhm.
her friend knew. And the
Mhm.
friend said, I would challenge you to go back and to tell her how you feel because everything you said to me about her indicates that she might be someone who could even help you move through this. And I said,
Mm.
well, what a friend you have, first and
Yes.
foremost.
Wow.
Right. And I thanked her for
Mm.
sharing that information with me because when you are standing in your truth, when you are advocating for yourself, and when you are showing up to get what life wants to give you, there are going to be people around you who feel uncomfortable about that because they don't have whatever it is that they need to stand in their own truth. And so
Mm.
they'll become intimidated simply by your presence. So it
Right.
took me time to get into a place to be comfortable with that. But baby, listen, I don't deal with it now. I
Uh-huh.
show up how I'm going to show up. I say
Mm.
what I need to say. I
Mm.
do what I am here to do because that's my covenant with myself and with the
Yes.
divine. And
Mm.
that has nothing to do with how you feel about it. This is
Mm.
bigger than your feelings. This is
Mm.
bigger than my feelings. Listen, today I'm on my hair is a whole mess today. I used a new product. It completely didn't do what it was supposed to do, dried it out, but I still get to show up because
Yes.
it's bigger than me. It's
Mm.
bigger than messy hair. It's bigger than how I feel. And so I recognize that my work is so powerful that I can't deal with how it makes you feel because I have
Mm.
a purpose and I have a mission.
Wow. And that's sacred queen behavior. Okay.
There you go.
In that sacred queen behavior, right? When you make that covenant, right? When you make that agreement, which you made prior to even being born.
Listen.
But when you say, I'm going to come here and I'm going to do it, baby, you got to do it.
That's it.
But the thing is, it's an uphill, it is an uphill battle because you have been conditioned, right? Because we all have been conditioned to be afraid of our sacredness, to be afraid of our divinity and how it may make someone feel uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Okay. I
Absolutely.
don't what's happening over here. Okay, technology. We're not doing that today, technology. Okay.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Lacey, you can hear me loud and clear. So let me ask you this question. How does a sacred queen show up in her most intimate relationship with her man? What
Mm-hmm.
does that look
Mm-hmm.
like? We know what
Mm-hmm.
it look like now with sisterhood, being that
Yes.
reflection, standing in your divine light, not taking things personally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that look like when a sacred queen has a sacred king?
So she is fully positioned in her femininity. She
Mm,
is open to receive. She's able to be supported by him. She allows him to take care of her. And she, in turn, shows up to nourish him, to nurture him, to encourage him, right? And she's not afraid to submit.
Talk about it.
She's
What that mean? What that word means
Listen,
to you?
she's not afraid, right? Because listen, this is when the girls start
Mm-hmm.
acting up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
submitting to no man, to this, to that.
Mm.
And let's be clear, when you are in the presence of divine masculinity, you will feel safe to be soft,
Mm.
right? You will feel safe to submit. And in submission, for me, submission is about leaning into and giving into the creation of something greater than
Ooh.
yourself,
Ooh.
right? Women
Mm.
are always like, I'm not submitting to a man, but you submit to your boss all the
Oh,
time.
come on.
You submit to your friends all the time. You
Mm.
submit to society all the time. You submit to the feelings that you get on Instagram all the time. This is why we have all these BBL baddies, because they've
Yes.
submitted to someone
Yes.
else's idea of what they
Yes.
think that they should look like. But when it comes to love and partnership, you don't want to submit. You have
Mm.
to. You get to submit, he gets to submit. And
Absolutely.
through that submission, something greater than the two of you and your egos is born out of that space. And so when a woman is a sacred queen and she's in a relationship with her man, she's not afraid to be submissive because
Mm.
she knows that she's creating something bigger. She's creating something greater. She is as sensual as she wants to be, as intimate and deeply connected to him as she wants to be. And she really truly knows how to sit on her throne and allow herself to receive everything that he has to give.
I want the ladies. Ladies, I want you to really hear what sis just said. I want you to really hear what the sacred queen just said. So I'm going to repeat. You said
Break it down.
submission is to lean into something greater than you.
Yes, ma'am.
What? See, so many times I think it's so human. It's so egoic. It's so he ain't gonna tell me what to do, and he don't even know da 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 da. Da. But what we're talking about is giving into purpose,
Mm-hmm.
giving into power, giving into prosperity,
Mm-hmm.
giving into love.
Mm-hmm.
You
Giving
know
into
what I mean?
family, giving
Giving
into
into
legacy.
what?
Yeah,
That just
all of
helped me.
that.
That was a whole word for me, honey. And I've been in a committed relationship for 9 years now, and that just helped me because no matter how spiritual you are, there's always going to be work that has to be done.
Right.
There's always going to be constant growing and evolving. And even as sacred kings and sacred queens, sometimes we have different ideals and sometimes those things clash. That's just the reality. But when we think about submission in the way that you just positioned it, and we have a partner who has that same mentality and understanding, oh my God. And you know what, Phyla? I'm gonna talk to my man about this when we done, but I know he's gonna be like, I've been saying that. That's what I've been meaning the whole time. I be like, babe, see, the way you say it and the way another sacred queen says it, there's a different level of understanding.
Yeah, because you know, my husband used to say to me all the time, "You don't listen," and I was like,
Mm,
"Who are you that I'm supposed to listen to you? What do you mean I don't
mm,
listen? You know, my father, right? All of
mm,
those things, and then you grow into this space where you recognize that actually, in intimate, committed, divine relationships, he is the father. You are the
mhm,
mother. He is the
mm.
lover. You are the partner. You play all of these different roles at different
Absolutely.
intervals within your relationship, and you become comfortable with that, right? And then it's no longer about, I don't want to listen to him because I want to assert my own ego. It becomes, I want peace within our home.
Uh-huh.
I want prosperity within our businesses. I
Mhm,
want our children to be mentally and emotionally grounded and balanced. And so it's
mhm,
about those things. And so the two of you are no longer battling each other because you're building something bigger.
mhm. It's a bigger goal. It's a bigger
It's
mission.
a
And so
bigger
this is
goal.
why we have to have the vision. You have to have
Mhm,
the vision. And this is why desire is so important.
mhm.
Talk to us about women, Phyla, who lack desire. Where does that even stem from?
So that is generally, right, like a root chakra issue.
Mhm, mhm,
It's about you not feeling safe within yourself, not
mm,
feeling safe within your home, within your environment. And it often comes from intimate, sexual, or some type of emotional trauma,
mm.
whether women are aware of it or not,
Okay.
right? I came from that type of environment. And so I
Mhm,
recognized that it can really crush your own internal connection.
mhm,
It can
mhm,
diminish your own intuition and
mhm,
disconnect you from yourself. And so
mhm,
when you're disconnected from yourself, from the root, you don't know what your desires are anymore.
mhm,
All
mhm,
you know is who you have been to other people and who
mhm.
they have told you you should be, and who the conditioning and the trauma and the socialization has positioned you to be.
Right.
Desire, pleasure, sensuality, those are fundamental parts of womanhood that create that life of fulfillment and satisfaction. And when you don't have those three things, it is an indication that there is some deep rooted trauma there.
Right.
Anyone who comes from a healthy emotional place, oh, they want things. They
Absolutely.
desire things, right? You want to create, you want to have, you want to be, you want to experience. You
Wow.
have a hunger, you have a thirst for
Mhm,
more, right? And
mm.
it doesn't mean that you're not grateful for where you are and what you have and all those things, but it means that you're so deeply connected to yourself that you know you're here to do so much more. That
Yeah.
you understand that you are a life giver,
Mm,
you are a creator, whether you ever have children or not. You're
mm,
here to bring forth life. And so when women don't have deep desires for themselves, I often will urge them to take a look at their past, see where there may have been some trauma inflicted that they're not recognizing, and start to begin to ask yourself every day, what do I want most? What do I want most? What do I want most?
mhm.
Until something starts to come up, because you have
Right.
to unblock those
Yeah.
barriers
Mhm,
that are stopping your emotions and your desires from coming
mhm.
up and making you aware of them.
Right. And I think it's so important for women to understand that simple things like asking yourself a question every day has the ability to shift your reality. I
Mm-hmm.
think so often we look at all of what we don't have or all of what we are needing or all the healing that we have to do and you get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that overwhelm makes you hit that plateau. You just stop doing the work. You stop the self-care. You stop the nurturing. You just stop doing those things because you see how far you actually have to go instead of understanding that it's one moment at a time.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't
Just like
even have
that
to do
laundry
the
that be
whole
sitting in
thing.
the corner for 2 weeks.
Girl, let me just fold up this one basket. That's
That's it.
Let me just fold up this one basket and just start right there. I
Right.
mean, just speak to just the importance of just taking that one step and what would be, because you are the self-care queen, right? I
Yes,
love your
ma'am.
self-care. If y'all don't already have it, I'm going to be putting Phyla's links in the description so you'll be able to check there. But I know you have a self-care calendar that you offer women. And all they have to do is just become a part of your email list, right? Great.
That's it.
You get gifted with a self-care calendar. Talk about the importance of self-care and just doing that one thing a day and how that can shift your reality and kind of create that momentum for healing.
So taking care of yourself is fundamental. It is
Mm,
the first thing that you should be doing every single day. But again, based on the society that we live in, we're taught to be the providers and the caretakers for others. When
mm,
you shift that on its head and you say, no, I get to come first, it empowers you to start making better choices, right? It positions you to attract better opportunities and experiences. And it just feels good when you're like,
mm,
oh, I'm not as tired as I used to be because I said no today.
mhm,
Oh, I have more energy because I worked out this week, right? And it's about you doing the simple things to take care of yourself, but also doing the hard things. So for me,
mhm.
self care is not necessarily about the manis and the petties and the
Right.
getting your hair done and going to the spa. It's about taking care of your health from the inside out. It's
Mhm,
about hiring that coach, getting
mhm,
that therapist. It is about moving your body. It's about confronting the people in your life who hurt you in the past so that you can
mhm,
move forward. But ultimately, it is about putting yourself and putting your needs first and recognizing that being a good woman means being good to you. Being
ah,
a good partner means being a good partner to yourself. And
mm,
starting every day simply by asking, what is it that would make me feel good
mhm,
today?
mhm.
And living your life that way. And I'm always about a 1, 2, 3 step thing. Let's keep it
Love it.
really simple. What's the one thing that you can start doing today to make yourself feel better? And then ultimately creating a 3 step routine for yourself where this is what I do every day. Like every morning, I meditate. If I don't, my day just does not feel right because I'm not
Right.
grounded.
Mhm,
4 or 5 days a week, I work out. There's some yoga here. I try to get some sunlight, do my best to eat well. So it's simple things that should be a part of your life already that
mhm,
you have just been conditioned out of doing for yourself. And
mm,
when you take care of yourself, what you're saying to life is that I come first.
mhm.
I get to have what I need. I get to have what I want. And like I always say, Desiree, and you've heard me say it, life listens to the voice of your actions. It's
Yes. Oh,
not
I
what
love
you
that.
say and what you pray, but it's also what
Mm.
you do after you say it and after you pray it.
Wow. Did y'all hear that? Okay. Listen, rewind the tape and hear that again. Life listens to the voice of your actions. You got to be about it,
Yes,
sis.
yes, yes.
You got to be about it. And that is just such a gift. And here's something that was coming up as you were speaking is that you don't have to wait till something traumatic is happening for you to decide to do these things.
There you go.
We get it. These are not things
Mhm.
that we were taught, right? Like I had a workaholic single mom who self-care, what's that? One thing that she did stay grounded in was prayer and church. But I think she even did those things for us as her kids because she wanted to lay a foundation of faith, right?
Mhm.
But I never saw her just take a moment to say, no, you know what? I'm too tired for that basketball game today. You know what? Y'all figure out what y'all gonna eat. I need my rest. She never did anything like that. And I think a lot of women, specifically Black women, have been conditioned to believe that if you say no, even to your kids, this means you're a bad mom.
Yes,
This
yes.
means if you say no to your man, well, shit, saying no to your man, a lot of women do that, right? But you're a toxic wife or you're a toxic partner, or if you say no to your job, girl, what? You ain't gonna go to
Mm-hmm.
work today. I don't know what's wrong with you. No.
Yes,
So we've been
yes,
taught that those things, it's normal to self-sacrifice.
yes, ma'am.
And then you
Yes.
have health issues, or you're depressed, or you have all of this, and then you realize, oh, something is wrong. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want the sacred sisters who come in contact with this video to really know and understand that loving on you is natural.
Yes, yes.
Loving on you is normal. It's
Mm-hmm.
abnormal to not nurture yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
something that Spirit gave me yesterday, as I was teaching my class, the Sacrament of Sacred Love, and Spirit told me, this was just divinely channeled to me. Spirit said, this is for the single ladies, right? And this is for everybody, but you know, Phyla, a lot of single women,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of single women out there who are really wanting and craving love. And here's a gift that I want you to know. When you do not nourish yourself, ladies, that soulmate can't even see you, sis.
You can't.
Your
Mm-hmm.
light, when you aren't taking care of yourself by way of meditation, doing the healing work, moving your body, eating well, your frequency is not even where it should be for you to attract the person who actually serves your highest good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Talk about that.
So it's just such a beautiful thing. A great example of this is me and my partner Dream. We known each other for 4 years before we got together. But because we weren't in our spiritual work, because we weren't nurturing and nourishing ourselves, we couldn't even see each other. I did not see him as
Mm-hmm.
somebody for me to be with, and he didn't see me as somebody for him to be with. But once we committed to our individual work on ourselves, not thinking about being in a relationship, then we actually saw each other's light and frequency and said, okay, you looking good to me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You looking like something that I'm trying to, I want some of that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we got to understand that, ladies, you be wanting that partner, you want to manifest that relationship, but your energy is not going to attract to you the relationship that you want. It will attract to you that trauma bond because you're not
Mm-hmm.
actually nurturing and nourishing yourself. And I'm sure this is something that you've observed in your work, Phyla.
Absolutely. Something that I observed in my own work, something that I experienced in my own life. And what you said is so poignant and it really hits on a point, right? Because when you are not grounded in who you are and you're not taking care of yourself and nourishing yourself, like you said, your light is dimmed. And so it can't be seen by that perfect partner. And it's so interesting because when you are nourishing yourself, you show up fully
Mm,
and you are not chasing anyone. I believe that men are supposed to chase and women get to choose, right? But the
mm.
roles have been so reversed that women are out here chasing and don't understand why they're so exhausted in the dating space.
Girl.
Okay? And so that's a topic for another show, right?
Girl, women
But
proposing and everything. I'm like, "Sis,
listen,
what type of
what
world
are
are
you
we
doing?
living
Just out of control, out of order. And I remember when I first met my husband, I was not really attracted to him. Like, okay, it's cool, but I was fresh, like out of a bad breakup and kind of
in?
wasn't able to see him for who he was. However, I was committed to me, committed to my own self care, taking care of myself. And there were things that I saw in him that I was like, I don't like this. And I was willing to let him go. So
Mm,
that's another gift of taking care of yourself. You're
yes.
willing to lose people. And the
Mm,
way that we came back together was by mistake. It was an
uh-huh.
accident, right? Like there
Mm,
was an accidental phone call that occurred. Why?
mm,
Because I had grown and he had grown. And so
mm,
when you are focused on yourself and your self-care and taking care of yourself, you don't have to do anything. You don't
huh.
have to find
Mm,
love. You don't
mm.
have to look for love because it will show up. Because just like you say, now it's able to recognize you.
Right. And what you also just spoke to was discernment.
Listen,
If you
okay?
are not tuned into yourself and doing that work, you don't even know that your attraction to these specific people is based off of a void or lack or feeling like if I don't do this now, I'm not going to have somebody and so on and so forth. So you lack that discernment, you lack that spiritual intuitive understanding, and then you
Mhm.
find yourself in situations and circumstances that do not serve. Everything serves your highest good if you can cultivate that mentality. Before a lot of women, you can't cultivate that just yet. And so you fall victim to repeating old habits, old
Mhm.
karma, so on and so forth. Listen, Phyla, This has been beautiful thus far. I
Yes, it
have
has
two more
been.
questions for you. First question is, what would you leave women with today? What is a key aspect of being a sacred queen that you want to leave the women with today?
So, first and foremost, honor yourself,
Mm,
honor your experiences, honor your feelings, honor your mistakes, right?
mm,
Include the failures, the flaws, and the fuck ups.
mm-hmm,
Honor and accept all of yourself as you are, even if there are things that you want to change. Simply allow those things to exist and
mm,
allow them to be without trying to change them, without trying to shift them, without trying to hide them. That is probably the most powerful thing that a woman can do, is to simply honor all of her right now
mm-hmm.
and allow all of her right now the permission and the space to exist as is.
Ooh, I love that. Because from that point, now we can actually grow, heal, and transform.
Yes,
But when we
ma'am.
don't accept, when we don't honor, when we don't acknowledge,
Mhm.
these things, we stay ignorant to ourselves, and therefore we can't change our situation. So I absolutely love that. And then my last question for you, which is going to be a question that I ask all of the Sacred Sister special guests, because I love music. Music is a tool for me for healing and transformation and
Mhm.
connecting to my divinity. So, what would be a sacred queen song for you? It could be new, it could be old, it could be whatever. But what is a song that makes you feel like a sacred queen?
That makes me feel like a sacred queen. So I'm a big Usher fan, right?
Ooh.
Like I love Ursha, right?
Uh-huh,
My
uh-huh.
husband knows I love him and all that. And one of my favorite songs from him is Superstar.
Oh my God, yes.
It's so sexy and
So
so
sexy.
sensual, right?
Mm.
And that, like, there's 10 million people in the world, but you are my superstar. And
Mm.
when I fell in love with that song, I wasn't in a relationship. So I used to sing it to myself about myself, right?
Yes.
Like, you are my superstar, you're so amazing. So I think that
Yeah.
that's one of the songs that really makes me feel sensual and sexual, and in my sacred queendom. And I'm sure that there are more, because it don't take much for me to feel like sacred queen, sis.
Right,
But
right, right. I love it.
it's about connecting to that sensuality for me. So I think, yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with Ursha and
Right, right.
Superstar.
I'll be a groovy
Hey,
baby.
baby,
Hey, no, that song is a great song. That is
isn't
a great,
it?
super sexy song.
Yes,
And it makes you feel like you want to dance, like you want to
yes,
groove, like you want to wear something sexy. So I love that.
exactly.
I love that for you, Sacred Queens. I encourage y'all to listen to that song, look in the mirror, dance to yourself, sing to yourself, because the beautiful thing about it is the way you feel about yourself is the way others will then feel about you. So become a superstar for yourself, become that sacred queen for yourself, and other people will follow suit. I
Mhm.
truly believe that. Before we go, Phyla, share with the people where they can meet you at. I'm learning something from you right now already. I love how you already put your IG tagline in the your IG, whatever it's called,
In
name
my
or whatever.
title, the handle.
I love the handle, the handle. I love how you put that there. See, branding is everything. Tell the family where to find you, and also share with them a little bit about your Sacred Queen Academy, just in case, if women are interested in joining that, they know where to go and learn more about it.
Absolutely. So there are three ways that you can work with me, and they offer different levels of commitment. So Sacred Queen Academy is my 90-day coaching program where I take you through my trademarked Sacred Queen formula of personal healing, personal happiness, and personal wholeness. And you learn to master the divine nine. These are the steps to becoming a sacred queen. In that program, you get one-on-one coaching with me. There's group coaching access, and you get year-long access into our Sacred Queendom community, which there are self-study, self-paced courses that you get as well. So you're getting the coaching, the courses, and the community,
Mm,
and it is ongoing support. The other way for you to work with me is I do offer VIP days, which are 3 hours of intensive coaching. And then we have just our membership community where you can do the self-study online course if you're not ready for the full coaching experience yet. And you can learn about all of those programs on my website, philaantwine.com. But my platforms of choice right now are TikTok and Instagram, and I am at She is Fila on both of those platforms. You can get a sense of my work. You can learn so much. There's so many videos and so much free content. And then all you need to do is to click the link in either of those bios and book a call with me. Or like I said, go straight to my website at philaantwine.com to choose your access point.
I love that. I love that. I love you all, Sacred Sisters. Listen, this is episode 1 of the Sacred Sister Circle podcast. And I'm
congratulations to you.
Thank you. Listen, I felt so much love doing this. I'm like, okay, Spirit, I done found my thing because conversation is my thing. And so I'm like, I found it. I'm grateful for it. And I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking with me and the Sacred Sister Circle community. And we're going to continue to spread this goodness, everywhere as much as we can, because like we said in the call, this is deeper than me. It's deeper than you. We're serving a greater purpose. And I'm so, so grateful to be able to do that. So peace and love, everybody. Thank you again so much, Fila. Y'all make sure y'all go and follow her handles, and we'll be talking to y'all soon. Peace.
My pleasure.